Board of Works meeting. Phyllis, let's have roll call, please.
Cam Collier.
Here.
Bill Carbach.
Here.
Ken Meyer.
Here.
Thank you.
You were emailed a copy of the minutes from our April 18th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
And there was motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same. Then last Thursday, April 27th, we had a special Board of Works meeting. Bill was absent, but Cam and I were both here. Motion to approve those minutes, Cam?
So moved.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same. And those are approved. Phyllis, we good to go on that? Okay. First thing, Jeremy, let's have you come up. We've got a few things with Jeremy tonight. You care what order I go in? Okay. First thing would be, let's talk about rejecting the bid on the water main on Master Drive. Jeremy sent the notice to the Decatur paper to advertise.
I did.
Somebody, Debbie did,
Yeah,
somebody
no,
did,
no.
yeah.
Miller Land Surveying actually sends that out.
Okay.
Legal notice.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. And the Decatur newspaper never put it in the paper. So basically, any bids that we got are null and void because the paper didn't advertise it. Now, having said that, go ahead and talk about the bids, Jeremy.
Miller Land Surveying failed in a couple areas of this bid. One, it was not advertised in Fort Wayne paper. It was intended to be advertised in the Democrat. Obviously, the Democrat received it, said that they, for some reason, did not advertise it.
And he never even sent it to Fort Wayne, but it was supposed to have been?
No. So, there was a couple errors there. Also, the one error, they were way under on their engineer's estimate besides what the amount should have been. He had an error in several areas of that estimate. So the combination of the two, his estimate to the actual bid amount was higher than 10%.
Which the only bid, we only had one bid because really only one person knew about it.
Correct. So according to state statute, we can't even award it because it's over the engineer's estimate. So the single bid was for $339,988.48. I'm asking you to reject this bid and we start over.
For one moment, before we do that, I know the engineer's bid initially was way less than that. Is the engineer revising what he believes the bid should be?
He's looking at it. I shared what my estimate was just real briefly. I'm going to go back through the figures and see about where we should be and converse back and forth with Miller. The downfall with a couple of Miller's engineers is they don't do a lot of this particular work.
Water work.
So they're not real confident when they do a lot of the engineer's estimates because they have not worked in the field much to see what some of this is. They're just going right off the book. I feel he was overtasked on a couple jobs and he rushed at the end to get this out of the bid.
Because the engineer's estimate was more than $100,000 less than what the actual bid was. It was way less.
My estimate, just to share the difference with you, his engineer's estimate come out to 198 and some change, 198,000. Having a cup of coffee at home that morning, I just kind of rushed some figures in my head real quick, and I know I didn't have it all, and I was coming up with like 275. So I'm not too far off of what Greg was coming up with. It'd be interesting to see if we get any activity from Fort Wayne, and then also to be interesting because being that we're delayed now an additional month roughly, we're going to have to go down and do some restoration work on our own, which will reduce that amount. we're getting several complaints from the residents down there because we should be much further along on the project. So we really need to go down and help speed the project up and do a lot of curb removal and asphalt removal and some grading and such, which will help the water main installation, and it's stuff that we need to do prior to prepping for the curb work and asphalt anyhow. So,
As long as we have bodies down there doing something that the residents will feel like something's getting done.
correct. And a resident really had my ear this morning on the phone for a while, and I just explained it to her. She didn't quite understand, but finally she took my explanation and hung up, so.
All right, so that's one question. Yeah, we need to reject this, but how do we fix the engineer's estimate?
I will fix the engineer's estimate.
Yeah, Jeremy, while Brett Miller does a good job, his firm does a good job with a lot of plans, water isn't their bailiwick, which we've come to find out here on this. And I don't know, it's kind of too late in the game to use somebody else, isn't it? Or
Yeah, we won't use anybody else. We'll just use our resources and come up with a whole lot closer engineer's estimate than what it really should be.
Well, it wouldn't be out of line either for them to consult with other engineering firms that they may have a relationship with that could assist them in developing a proper estimate.
And that's what I asked him to do a week or so ago, and I spoke to him this morning. He still hadn't done that. So we will be in contact over the next couple of days and try to get that estimate as close as what we can.
so Cam, you were making a motion?
I made a motion, reject the bid, start over.
And second that.
A motion on the floor to reject the water main bids. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Now, while on the water main of Master Drive, I guess the next thing is you're going to talk to Miller again, and you'll be getting it advertised and put out the bid as soon as possible again.
Yes, I need to either email him at the conclusion of this meeting or call him first thing in the morning. He really had it set up to rebid or re-advertise tomorrow.
Okay.
So that would, but we had to formally go through a rejection process, and then,
But if the plan that they're rebidding isn't a good plan, then...
well, it'd be the same plan. The engineer's estimate is something separate than
Okay,
from the plan.
I got you, I understand.
See, the contractor never knows what the engineer's estimate is until the bid is received and accepted or
Gotcha,
denied.
okay.
You
Okay,
know,
so,
could I say something?
Yeah.
And this is not the first time this has happened since I've been on boards. Could we come up with some type of a checkoff sheet? Phyllis and I have talked about this. When you send something into a paper, whether it be Fort Wayne or Decatur, and you don't check back on it, because we don't,
The process I use is, I write it on my calendar, check the newspaper on these days, and I always do myself 2 or 3 days prior, so if they don't get it in, they can still get it in.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if we could come up with some type of a form that anybody that's responsible for putting something into the paper would have to go through that process. Does that sound...
Well, the
'cause
Democrat will email you back too, once they receive it.
that's what I would suggest, is
And
that
they
we
will
always
confirm
have
that they have received it.
There was, and there may also have been a resolution of that in the state legislature. There was a provision included in one of the bills, and I don't know if it was included in the final version or not, but in essence, what this provision would allow, if it was passed, is that if you can establish that you delivered the notice in a timely fashion and requested its publication, and the publisher failed to do so, that was not grounds to undo the process. You could move forward because you made a good faith effort to comply with the statute. So I'll check to see if that's the situation. If so, that probably goes into effect July 1st. So it would potentially at least avoid having to start all over, doesn't necessarily solve the problem of not getting an adequate notice to the general public, which is always the intent.
Anything we send to the Democrat or any other paper, we email it, right? I assume? Okay, well, just put a tag on there, that they reply to confirm receipt.
I don't know how many people within the city sends requests out that this gets in the media. I don't know how many people there are. I know Sharon.
Sharon and I do ads, and then maybe the engineer, normally the engineer just gives them to me and I do it, but he was kind of himself, I guess, but, which is, I mean, maybe we should have done it ourselves, I guess.
Well, we've had situations that we had planning meetings and Board of Works or Board of Zoning Appeals meetings that actually we started a meeting out and we went for proof of publication and it wasn't there. And two things, that's neglect on our part, and it's also embarrassing because these people have come forward, they're here to attend the meeting and we have to cancel the meeting. To me, it's kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but then again, I think maybe if we could come up with some type of simple solution, I think that's better.
It's unfortunate, but you guys just got to double check them.
Why is
You've got to just mark it on your calendar, just double check it to make sure it gets done.
I know we're required to post it, but are we required to use the newspaper?
Yeah.
We are.
On certain things, it requires that you have to publish it in a newspaper of general circulation. And sometimes it has
Sometimes it's in 2 newspapers,
Right.
if you have 2 in your county, but
Right.
we only have, well, not in our county, in our city, we only have 1.
Yeah.
The fact that most people don't get their news from the newspaper anymore, they haven't changed the law
Right.
at state level.
Right.
Yeah, it'll take another 5 or 10 years.
You have resistance to that idea from a lobbyist group.
Vendors, yeah. Okay.
Okay, moving on. Quotes for Master Drive concrete work and street lighting. Jeremy's passed something out to all of us here. Rolled curbing. Jeremy got quotes from Brooks, Primco, and Garcia Concrete. Primco is the cheapest and came in below the $50,000 range to where we need to have sealed bids and everything, so we could look for a motion to use Primco to do the curbing, and it'd be a rolled curbing. Now, when you say 3,540 feet, is that the entire block, or is that just down to where that's 2nd Street to Washington?
Yeah.
Okay. And then replacement of the driveway approaches, you put that up to 3 people, and Taylor Gauge Concrete was the cheapest on that at $28,404. And that would either replace or repair and make each driveway.
Every driveway approach would be replaced to match the new curb, and there's so many of them that are in pieces now the way it is.
Any idea how many homes are on that street?
No,
A lot. It's a long street.
I don't remember right offhand. There's like 29 driveway approaches that we have to do because some of them are double driveways, so we're just counting those as one
Okay.
instead of single.
So you got the amount for curbing, the amount for driveway approaches, the asphalt, you got that figure in there? Is that something that I guess we did bid asphalt early in the year, that's just the price. And so the total amount, the amount paid from the Lowett Fund, and then the balance from the MVH Fund.
And that Lowett is really Lowett Special Distribution.
Lowett Special Distribution.
We've got Lowett Public Safety, and we've got Lowett Special Distribution, and that's what that is. That's the money we receive from the state to do street improvement.
Okay. Which accounts pretty much for everything except the street lighting improvements which you have 15,000. What are we going to do for street lighting improvements?
We are replacing what's there and adding additional poles. That was figured into the street light budget.
Okay.
And Tom's thrown out 15. He said it's not to exceed 15. So he said that he was thinking more on the lines of 13, 14, but...
And that comes from, whose budgets that come from?
The street light.
Street lighting.
Account that was appropriated additional money for this project.
Common council's budget.
So this takes care of everything except water,
Yes.
and we'll know that once we rebid it.
And what I was asking Ken for is, I'm not chasing meetings, obviously, since we are behind. So I followed the ordinance, and I'm just asking for permission to approve these expenditures.
To keep the work going, yeah.
These expenditures.
Yes. The curbing and the driveway approaches.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve them, Jeremy.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. We're not done with you yet, though.
Move things to the side.
Nature Preserve.
Okay, the last meeting I reported that Kevin McCory and his team and myself and TE Construction was going to sit down that Friday and discuss the Nature Preserve project, make sure that everything was covered in the project. Everything is covered. He is very capable of the project and very, very eager to get started once it dries up. There was one alternate number 1. And what that alternate is it's another connection to that trail. Currently, it kind of wraps back around and then goes more towards the trestle end where it comes back and ties
I think a
back
lot
to
of the drawings that we have seen actually shows that in there, but that was actually an alternate.
This one brings it back towards the pond a little closer. So
Mhm.
there's another access off the trail and into the nature preserve. That alternate, number 1, has a value of $22,700. So that would bring the total project to $302,000, which is still under budget. The original bid amount was $279,300. I would highly recommend that you approve that alternate. I think it's going to be very worthwhile. It's going to be very.
Let me ask again, you say that will take the price up to 302?
Up to 302.
And the original bid, engineer's estimate was?
Well, the bid was 279, right?
The original bid was
279,
$279,300.
but with this, it takes it up to
302.
302. And how much were we awarded in the grant and all that? I mean, how much under our estimate
we
was
would
it?
still have about 9,000, I believe.
9,000 roughly dollars
Yeah.
left to use on something.
No,
Whether-
it's more than that.
It's more than that, I
It's
think.
more than that.
That's what I was thinking.
So we can use that for something else?
In the nature
Project?
preserve.
Yes.
If it was
can
in-
use the
If it was
balance of the
included
funds.
if the scope of the work was included in the original application to DNR, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, if the original, the definition that I received from Kyle is if it was, as long as it was included in the original scope, if it was benches or something that was already there, we can do it automatically. If it's not, we just need to run it back through DNR for approval. So like interpretive signage would be something that's not included. So we would either have to pay for that out of the park budget or council or mayor's budget. Or run that back through the DNR.
Funny guy.
Hey, I just threw it out there. So, I'm a little hesitant to spend that final amount until we know that.
Okay, well, once we get close to completion and we know if there's any change orders or anything that has to happen, and we know what our budget is, how long will it take to get things like that approved?
As long as it's included in the original bid, we can just do it right off.
Okay.
So you're saying if we don't take the alternate and we just stick with the 279, it's not like we have the freedom to use that money someplace else. It has to be used for this project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or we don't get it.
Or you don't get it.
Well, sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Use it or lose it. We want to use every bit of it that we can get.
And
You know, and you may, we're gonna find stuff that we didn't think about.
That's the way it was drawn, was alternate one. That's what
Yeah.
been
Right.
sold.
The drawing, it
Well-
shows that connection in there.
Yeah, and we threw the option back and forth to go on a little bit less pavement to save some money. It was actually bid with a lot more pavement than, it's really gonna be built like a road, which is a little overkill, but, and we were surprised to come in at the amount that it did. That's why we threw in that $22,700 alternate in case we were over budget.
All right?
So do you need a motion to approve TE construction for the,
With alternate one.
And then I also,
with option 1, yeah?
we don't have to do it right now, but I have just some agreements that has to be signed, the mayor has to sign them. The DNR requires, it's all standard wording and such, pretty much boilerplate. I also just need approval to have Ken sign these tomorrow.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? And I think you have one more thing?
That, and, well, I need to add something to there real quick.
Okay.
This project would probably start like June-ish,
Depending on when it gets dry
depending
enough.
on the weather, and it's only about a 45-day project, so they'll be in and out before you really realize it.
Do we still need the motion to approve the alternate? Since it's been the 302?
Yeah, I don't think that was clear.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly clear.
Yeah,
was
I'll
it?
make a motion to proceed with bid, including alternate one for $302,000.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Debbie?
Debbie Bradburn has completed her 6-month probationary period. She's actually well into her 7th month, almost completing. She's really picked up the last several months. She's doing a really nice job. I'd like to take her off probation. When we hired her, it was under a 6-month probationary period. I'm satisfied. Everyone else seems to be satisfied with her work, so.
Now, while she was probationary, she still was, we still were paying into perf and all that for her, correct? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's a probationary period. She did get a little bit of a raise there at the end, but it's still not near the high end of the
Right.
pay scale, so.
Do I have a motion to approve her going into full-time status off of probationary?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. I think that's it for you.
I have one question real quick.
Yes, sir.
The last couple of years, we have looked at purchasing a pickup broom for the front of our Bobcat. Basically, what that broom is it runs backwards and actually throws all the debris and stone and stuff into, basically, we call it a big dustpan. And you pick it up and you dump it in a dump truck. Use them a lot for asphalt patching. We've been doing all of our own patching, our trench patching and stuff now. They run around $4,300. I got 2 quotes on those. I do have equipment money in my budget, and it's well under the $10,000 I need to come and ask approval for. Does anyone have any objection to purchasing something like that?
I think it's something you need, Jeremy, especially if you're doing your own patching, which, like you said, you are. So.
Yeah, we're doing our own patching, but even when we're putting water and sewer mains in, it's a whole lot easier to clean
So,
up
clean
after the
up,
fact.
yeah.
Besides hand sweeping, and we can actually get a lot of the dust and stuff cleaned up also at the same time.
Each guy's out there sweeping broom with a broom.
So, I'm still looking at a couple options. They run around $4,300, so.
Ann? Ann wants to do some smoking.
Smoke testing. Custom.
No, I don't think, hey, Bill, we didn't motion on the broom. Do we want to do that by a motion, or does it just?
I think he had it with...
I think it's by consensus.
Yeah, okay, by consensus.
As long as it's budgeted.
Yeah, right. And he had the money for it.
I talked to your smoke lady Friday.
I will make a motion to approve the purchase of a pickup broom for Bobcat.
What's his name?
Second.
From West-
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
It was the same. Now we got our motion.
We wanted to do a small section at Decatur smoke testing this year, and I only asked for one quote from Westler. We've been using them since 2012, and we've gotten other quotes from other companies, but this year I just asked Westler. It's only a 2-day job, and it's, they quoted $50 a lineal foot, and it comes to, it's on the third page, $5,900. This, actually the $50, we agreed, since it was a small area, to do the pamphlet posting at each house. And so that, last year, I think their price was $62, so that's quite a savings,
Yeah.
I think.
Wonder why it's less. Location?
Because we're going to do the pamphlet
Oh,
door to
okay.
door.
Where are you planning to do smoke testing this year?
It's to the south lift station. We're still getting way too much water in that area. It'd be Homestead, Bush Street, Bowman, Highland Park. We did it 5 years ago. We fixed quite a lot of defects, but we're going to look at it again. So.
That was Homestead, Bowman, and Highland Park. And
Bush Street, Gage Avenue.
And all of Homestead, you say? Yeah. Changing the subject just a little bit. How's everything with the river?
It's doing good. We haven't had any other problems with structures.
Our monitors are getting a little,
Oh,
they're getting some data now, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I saw like Jim Gerard Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because part of them are cell tower, I think they get readings that way. He said they're getting numbers, so they come and read the other ones by hand.
Are you noticing any difference with the interceptor out at the plant, Ann, or is it coming from other sources like the southern part of the city?
Well, yeah, see, the south part of the city feeds the beginning of the interceptor, so that would create more chance to overflow because the center part of the interceptor is where the CSO area is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's already water coming down, less of it's going to be able to feed in further up.
Are they getting temperature reads as well to determine whether it's
They're
river
coming
water
down,
or...
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
What's the significance of the temperature read?
It tells you if
Tells you if it's river water or...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
River or
rainwater,
rain.
rainwater, sewage. It's all different temperatures.
Yeah, I guess it would be. Okay.
But, so, since I just had one quote, I was asking.
Well, I think that for the, it's not a lot of money, and
No.
it's budgeted, right? It's something you had planned to do.
And you're satisfied with their work.
Oh, yeah,
Exactly.
we can't find anybody that does, their reporting is so good and
Right.
exacting, and when we have to notify people of defects, it's so much easier with their detailed report.
Right.
Do you want a motion for this, or?
Please. Well,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
need one, since I only had one quote, it's up
No,
to you, I guess.
that's fine. I'll make a motion to let Wensler go
Engineering.
on with,
Smoke testing.
with your request.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Thanks, Ann. Les? We're moving right along. Hello, Les. Welcome back to work.
Sorta, yeah.
I don't know if y'all know, but Les had some cervical surgery on his neck. And he's a little scar right there, yeah.
Things coming around, not quite as fast as I'd hoped, but they're coming around, so. Really a pretty simple request from the Board of Works.
Nothing is simple.
Back in September, remember Craig Hirely left our employment and the family headed to Louisiana, and while Craig and the family will be coming back, Craig's already back. Things just didn't work out. I didn't delve into the personal things that were going on, but he's back and employed with full-time with Adams County EMS. And I guess my request would be, since he was a full-time employee, and I have 2 volunteer slots, paid on call slots open, one of those with Taylor Gage moving to full-time, and Randy Gage retired after 20-some years as a volunteer beginning of April. So I have 2 openings. So I would like to ask if the Board of Works would allow me to forego an application process for a volunteer, because Craig would have, he would be a start tomorrow, and his gear actually still there and available. So, Craig could be a paid-on-call volunteer and start immediately. And it's a little unusual that we wouldn't have a hiring process, but with the training and everything that's involved now, we really always time our hirings when we're down at least 3, because it takes 3 or 4 to make a class for the guys to go through the fire training, so we usually time that with other departments, and so we could actually just pick Craig up as a volunteer. He'd know all the, he would know all the ins and outs, could probably even work some part-time relief if need be. So that, my request would be to allow me to put Craig back on as a volunteer and forego a hiring process this time. So,
And if we,
he would have the same, you asked about benefits and some stuff, I mean, he would have the same pay scale as any other volunteer.
and if we wait until we need 3 and we actually advertise or take applications, he's willing to wait if he has to.
But, I mean, right now, he would be at the top of the heap in any volunteer hiring anyway, so.
You could use it.
I could use him tomorrow if need be, but it would just be a matter of reinstating him or hiring him as a volunteer.
Tim, the only
Clothing allowance would still be there and everything as far as that, so.
The only question I have would be, it's kind of against protocol, and is that setting precedent if we do this?
Well, I think if you're going to deviate from your normal practice, then I think you need to, on the record, identify the reasons that you're making an exception to the rules that you typically follow, and based upon that, make a determination that it's an appropriate form of action to take. So if you choose to do it, that's what you'd have to do.
Make sure that there's,
So
it's
I
been
guess
noted.
And note that it's not establishing a procedure that you're
Right.
typically going to follow. As I understand, the reason that Les gave is because this particular individual is fully familiar with the department, is already fully trained and, in essence, equipped, and can immediately step in and assume the responsibilities, where if you were filling somebody from outside that didn't have that background, then you're going to go through a different process to get that person up to speed in terms of being able to use them. If you go through I guess the issue is, do you need him right away? And from what Les is saying, he does. So that's up to you. If you choose not to deviate, then you can either go through the interview process, but as Les said, he's most likely going to be near the top, if not the top anyway.
Cam, Bill?
Of course, my question would be, Les, if you needed him right away, why haven't you created a hiring process?
The biggest reason for that is with the new state training, we need, in the county or Adams-Wells County, we need to have a class size of about 10 to make the class work properly within and do the practical skills within the state's evaluation criteria. So we've Monroe or Bern, Geneva, none of those right now are in a position where I think at the very best we'd have a class size of about 5. So if we were to fill our 2, we still wouldn't be able to start a class yet probably by this fall. So,
Well, I hate to throw a monkey wrench in this, but I don't think you should deviate from your hiring process. Only because it may come up again, and it may not be as acceptable. In other words, the next case may be a little cloudier, and you may say, I don't want to put you in right away. I'd rather go through a hiring process. So, and even though you are deviating from it, and you're putting the cause that you are, that's hard to explain at a later date. So,
well,
I truthfully, if Hirely didn't come back right away, I don't think he's going to go anyplace. So
No.
I think we should follow our
I guess the only
procedure myself.
the only question I would have in reference to that is, we just hired full-time, and so we had a pool of several candidates that were sort of left. If we had an opening with full-time tomorrow, what was our timeline that we would have kept those applicants? Was it a year, or... That's kind of why I was thinking it's been less than a year. So would we still hire AJ or Joey without a hiring process full-time? I guess that was when we had discussed that, like at the Board of Works, when we hired our full-time the last time. How long were we going to keep those candidates? So would we...
I think we discussed it would be a year.
Would be a year. So that was what kind of made me think that this would be over a year. I probably would have...
Roger, you have a comment back there?
Not asked.
Yeah, I do. I've been on there the whole time. Craig's been a full-time fireman, and his skill level, his conditioning level, and his ability is far and beyond a lot of them down there. He is very qualified to be a volunteer. Plus, he knows the trucks, like Les was saying. The reason he left was because his family went down there, and it didn't work out, they're coming back.
I believe it was his wife's occupation actually took him down there,
And
not
he would
his.
be a very qualified individual from my point of view.
I'm not questioning that, Roger.
Yeah.
Not at all. I just think you set a precedence on that. And at a later date, what I'm saying, if somebody else came forward, that was the same qualifications, and they had worked for less, but they weren't as, like you said, like a Hirely, and you didn't follow the process, Or you didn't put them on right away?
I think the justification would be that, I mean, we ought to be able to stand and say, we're not accepting this because they're not as qualified. I mean, you're coming from a need basis, or?
Well, I'm coming from a need basis because if Harley wouldn't have came back, what would we have done? Where would we be today?
Right now, we would still be down 2 volunteers because
But why didn't we move on this if the need was there, I guess is what I'm saying.
Because we couldn't fill the class.
The difficulty of putting a new hire through the training class, that would be the big issue. So this is something like kind of the county chiefs have all discussed, is that we need to kind of get together and make sure that if Burns is going to put on 2 or 3, they got 2 or 3 openings, Monroe's got 2 or 3, we need to not just put on our 2. We need to make sure that we're hiring at the same time, so that our goal is to start a firefighter 1 and 2 class in the fall, so that everybody hires up till, okay, you're going to take applications, and then in September you're going to have your applicants chosen so that you can have a class of 10 or 12, because we simply can't put an individual on and train them appropriately just one. The state training guidelines just don't really make that conducive at all.
Les, can you, I mean, do you have to initiate the training within a certain period of time as you designate an individual? You can't use them until they're trained.
You can't use them, and Jeff usually within the county, uses a modular system. So you could put them on in September, and they still can't hardly come to the scene by January.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is,
So
let's say you go through the process of interviewing, you select the candidates, but you don't have a training session scheduled because you don't have enough people to do it.
Right.
And that doesn't happen for 6 months. Is there any problem with that other than the fact that they can't really help you until they wait for the training?
Yeah.
You can designate them as, these are the people that are going to go through the training once the session is
And
held.
there's some things they can come to the station and become familiar with, but for them to go to a fire scene and actually work,
Okay, so would it be
6 months.
Would it be wrong then for you to go ahead and open up for applications and he applies and you take him and one other, but the other guy isn't going to be able to?
At this point, Burns full, Geneva's full, their roster's full. Monroe is thinking about putting on 2 or 3, and possibly would have them ready for September. Possibly, but you think there's just not many people wanting to volunteer anymore. So even the volunteer departments that don't compensate at all are having problems getting people to volunteer. So we used to get, Roger, we used to get what, 30 applications per month?
Yeah, and that reason being,
We get 10.
because the state requires so much training and certifications that these younger guys just can't take that much time away from their families. It's a lot harder getting on than it was 30 years ago.
Roger and I probably both were handed a pager and said, it goes beep, 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 and show up, and
then do
Come
your
running.
training.
Yeah.
But you can't do that.
but with liability.
Yeah.
Explains a lot about Lowe's.
Bill, I guess, if, I know Taylor Gage has a friend that's at Hoagland, and Taylor's told me how good of a volunteer, and even Hoagland's fire chief has told me that this guy's outstanding. And he says, I know he lives in Decatur, and I know one of these days you're going to probably pick him up when you get a chance to hire him. But even with that, I wouldn't take that guy. The only reason I'm approaching you guys with this is Craig went through our system. He knows our system. There's several qualified individuals, but we've never worked side by side with them. That's the thing that sticks out with Craig, is that he's ready to go.
So hand him an application and ask him to complete it.
And if that was the step I needed to do, I mean, I could do that. But I really would hate to single out one application without taking applications. That I think that would cause more.
We'll take applications. Doesn't mean you hire them if they don't qualify.
When we advertise though, we do advertise with a packet, and there's agility testing, and so we would have to do those steps, I think. I mean, if we can't really fake an application. If we would have to follow through.
But I'm not asking you to fake it.
And it's costly because we have to bring individuals in on the day we do agility testing, and we're paying people to do an agility test and a written test.
Yeah. But
So
if you
there's
just
some cost
said you
involved.
couldn't just hand him one because people would talk, wouldn't people talk if he just all of a sudden appears?
I think, several of the volunteers have called me and said, are you going to look for a way to get Craig back on? I mean,
I think this circumstance is almost a little different. I think you have probably 100% support. Jeremy and Roger back there shaking their heads, yeah, over this particular person.
Yeah.
And I agree, okay? But I'm just saying, when you deviate from your hiring practice, it can come back to haunt you. I mean,
It's good, but I think we've always got, that's why we've always had our volunteers have always been Board of Works approved, for that reason, is that, you people do get it.
From our firefight, for our hiring practice, but this is an individual that we're all familiar with, and everybody down there on the department's familiar with, and he's got the skills.
His equipment's already there.
Well, I somewhat, I think, fear a little bit that he's going to go to one of the top 3 in the county, top end. He's going to go to one of those fire departments and I'm not sure that if Dan Elsie would grab him up in a heartbeat, and of course, they're volunteer departments, so they live by a little bit different set of rules, but if Preble or Monroe got a chance to grab Craig, they're going to grab him without any sort of hiring process whatsoever. So
Personally, I don't have a problem with it as long as it's properly noted in such a way that we make every effort possible not to let it come back and haunt us in the future. Would you think that would be okay, Tim?
And I understand, I appreciate what Bill's saying.
And I do too, Bill.
So I think what you would do is you would make it clear that if you choose to go this route, that because of the unique circumstances, you're willing to make an exception to the rule. It is not establishing a new precedent that's going to be followed in the future. You will continue to follow your normal process, but because of the unique circumstances are here.
So you're looking for things like less than a
he was a full-time employee within the last year. He's fully trained. His equipment is already in place. He's well known to the fire department force, and there seems to be fairly universal support for him being selected as a volunteer. You could, under those circumstances, choose to make an exception to the rule.
And certainly,
that's entirely up to the board.
Certainly, if we were at a full roster of 25, I wouldn't be asking to put a 26th person on just for that reason. So I think having 2 openings, and
Blessed he, as he made indication, came back and took a job with EMS, is interested in being a fireman again.
Well,
if the opportunity came up.
age has closed that door for
He can't come
him.
in as a new hire. Okay.
And in the long run, it would save the city money, correct? In
Yeah.
the long run, it does save the city money.
Oh, yeah, it's
Because
going to
training.
save us training time.
equipment.
And, you know, and he's going to get the same benefits any of the other volunteers would get, the volunteer clothing allowance and $15 an hour for the first hour and $12.50 for the second, but, and could also work relief. And, you know, we've got a guy that's been working some relief that's 72 years old, and I'm just not sure that's a good idea anymore. And so we may, you know, this would also create that opportunity, especially with his EMS scheduling. So, I mean, it's up to you guys, but...
Well, I mean, I understand the concerns. Yes, there are rules, but there's also circumstances. And to me, this seems like a pretty obvious solution to a problem of having two open vacancies. So I will make a motion that we go ahead and proceed with the... has he even been talked to? Do we know that he even wants to do this?
Oh, yeah, that was one of the first phone calls he made was, is there an opening and can I get back on as a volunteer?
So I'll make a motion that unless you can hire Craig Harley as a volunteer to replace one of the two open spots and forego the traditional application process given the circumstances that he is within 6 months of leaving the department as a full-time firefighter. He has all the training certification, and that we know that we can't fill one of these spots at least until, at a bare minimum, until the fall when a class is held. I don't know if there's anything else, any other reason I would need for that, but that's my motion.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Bill's opposed. Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Les. Melissa. Pensy ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
If you're at the Pensy Depot, there's the statue of the bird. Is everybody kind of familiar with what we're talking about? Okay. That is part of the sculpture tour from last year. The Pensy ladies would like to purchase that and make it a permanent piece at the depot. It seems to fit in with the landscape, and there's a very nice brick area with nice landscaping that was part of the overall project for the depot. So we would like to keep the birds, and so we applied for a grant to the Community Foundation. The artist is going to bring a new piece here in June, and he has agreed to let the ladies pay in 2 installments of $2,500 a piece. The first $2,500 when he's here for the tour in June, and then the remaining $2,500 6 months later. So we applied for a grant from the foundation, and we received $900 of the $2,500. So again, we'd like to keep the sculpture there. If the birds go away, there's the sculpture tour. There's nothing planned for that space.
Because they'd kind of had the understanding that the Pensy ladies were going to purchase it.
They're going to work to fundraise for that. So that's where we are.
So they need $2,500 by June 9th.
We have $900.
And they have $900. And they will fundraise to raise the balance.
Correct. There'll be some more lemon shake-upping happening. And then they would also apply to the foundation again at the next grant cycle to see if there was any additional funding for them to pay the
For that second half.
But the sculpture tour has agreed to skip the finder's fee on this. They usually reserve, I don't know how much is it 20%?
I have no idea.
Or something. So they've agreed to skip the finder's fee. That the base that the birds are on does belong to the sculpture tour. They're willing to donate that base so it stays with the birds. So there is some goodwill there.
Would this be the city sculpture then?
Yes, they would live at the depot on a permanent basis.
And we would have to insure it.
What is
Permanently insure it.
What does that cost?
The insurance?
The insurance, I'll have to double check.
I mean, is it based on the value of the actual piece itself?
And so we're saying that this has a value of around $5,000.
$5,000.
So the question is the Pensy ladies who have done a ton of work to restore the depot, raised a ton of money to do all that, and yes, the city has contributed to the cause. Now they're up against a brick wall, and if they don't get some help, the birds that are there are going to go bye-bye.
Yes, and we will have an empty, lovely brick and landscape setting.
But that's
that is empty.
For a year at least.
But that's only because the sculpture tour.
The birds are on the tour, and the birds would be done when the artist came to pick them up.
But they haven't.
in the
They
next
never
month or so.
placed. They never planned to replace it because they assumed that the sculpture that they were
Pensy
going to
ladies.
I
buy
think
it.
it's twofold. I think that they thought that the Pensy ladies might purchase it, as well as they would like to keep the tour along 2nd Street this year. And I think there was some concern that a new sculpture was a distance away from the main drag out here.
But they're not. Okay.
So they asking for money, or they asking for permission to fund it?
They're asking for money
They're trying to figure out a way to...
to pay the first installment.
They need $1,600, and they're not going to be able to raise that between now and June 9th.
No, they're not.
Insurances first.
Do we need to know this tonight, Melissa?
I have a letter dated April 26th. That's the letter from the Community Foundation awarding the money.
The $900.
Yes. And we have to respond within 10 days of the receipt of this letter. And if we do not, we lose the money. Now, we could let the foundation know that the circumstances we're in, and I would imagine that we could get an extension. But otherwise, this money would go back to the foundation. We would let it go.
Are they asking for a loan to buy the sculpture until they can fundraise?
Doesn't sound like it.
Sounds like they just want the city to buy this permanent.
Wait a second. But the installment's not due until
June.
Be due in June.
June. So why?
The agreement that the artist has made.
The only reason Melissa's here tonight is because they received the grant from the foundation, and they have 10 days to accept the grant or decline it. If she accepts it,
If
They gotta
we're
come
not
up
going to
with
buy
60.
the birds, we're going to let this money go.
Okay.
and you're saying, so the message you're bringing us is that without the city's help,
They don't have, there's not enough time to fundraise the remaining $1,600.
you had
in a
mentioned
month.
to me when we talked about the Pensy Depot funds, rental funds. Did you look into that?
All that money goes into a fund from rentals if we have to keep any deposits. We pay, I believe, our cleaning person is paid out of that, as well as any supplies that are needed. The balance of that's about $1,200.
Here's my concern. So it doesn't sound like they applied for this grant knowing that they would have to come up with the balance in 10 days. This is a stipulation being put onto them.
Well, what
by
did they apply for? They didn't apply for $900.
The application was for $2,500.
Okay, but the pressure here, the timing that's being forced is because of the foundation.
Correct.
It was
Well, and the
formed-
artist has put a timeline in place that the artist will allow this to be sold for this amount of money with $2,500 up front and the $2,500 6 months later.
But they applied for that grant with the understanding that they were going to raise the remaining balance all the way up until June 9th.
No, after June 9th.
No, up to June 9th.
Okay.
They were going to raise that money, but the time crunch, why we are being asked, is because of what the foundation is requiring. To me, it sounds like we need to go back and ask the foundation to reconsider their offer, because the Pensy ladies, yes, my mother, I've not talked to her about this is news to me, but it sounds like they're being forced to come and ask for money because they haven't given enough time what they originally planned for of raising the money. If it was not for the foundation putting this 10-day stipulation on it, they wouldn't be here asking for money.
Well, I don't know if I understood it that way. I think maybe I misunderstood Melissa, but I think what Melissa said was, given the fact that the foundation did not fund in full the $2,500 request and only funded $900, now the Pennsylvania ladies need to come up with the additional $1,600. They don't have enough time to do it between now and June.
Yeah, they know they have to have $5,000. They applied for $2,500 and was going to raise the other $2,500 by the second installment.
Okay.
But they didn't get awarded the $2,500.
Would it be possible, if the council were to even consider this, contribute the money with the understanding that there would be a commitment for funds to be raised to reimburse the city for the cost that the city fronted in order to acquire this?
In other words, lend them the money.
Kind of, in a sense, yeah.
Is that possible? That was my original thought too.
Could you stipulate that the rental expense will go towards this statue? And then as it accumulates, let loan the money, and then the first $5,000 of the rental will go towards the statue. In other words, the city will get reimbursed for what you're loaning.
Well,
But can you do that in that ordinance you drafted, Tim? Would you consider that an improvement to the depot?
What did we do on the depot?
You drew up an ordinance for,
about the cash balance.
It was pretty flexible. I don't know that
it was to be used for...
I'd have to look at it, but I think it's probably, it would fall within that.
Right.
Melissa, I think that, personally, I think we need to ask for an extension from the foundation for 2 weeks. Let us look at the ordinance that we wrote, see how flexible we could be, and see if we can come up with a way of, and maybe, we can talk to the Pensy ladies as well. If we can get an extension from the foundation, if they'd be gracious enough to do that, then we might be able to work something out. Does that make sense to you guys?
It's ultimately going to be council's call to come up with the money.
Or you can just say, we're gonna let it go.
I guess I think the responsibility to come up with the money was from the applicant who made the application to the grant. They ought to have had a backup plan that is not coming to us.
I certainly don't want to tick off the Pennsy ladies, but
So they've given a lot to that depot, a lot of time and a lot of hours.
This year?
They won't.
It
It'll be
looks
an
nice,
interest
if we're landscaped around it, if we as a council are fiscally responsible to the people that pay taxes for us, are we really supposed to take, don't get me wrong, I think everything positive about the sculpture and the Pennsy ladies and the work they've done, but are we really allowed to take on maintenance or insurance costs for something that is pretty much a gift to the city on city ground that we are making a promise to maintain for the rest of its life? And it's not a taxable entity. It's not providing taxes back to the city for us to be fiscally responsible. Our job as council is to be fiscally responsible. Is that the right move? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but our also job as a community is to provide a quality of life.
Don't get me wrong.
If we strictly went with that, we would not have a pool.
Exactly.
And we do have other...
But there's a way of
sculptures that
making,
will have to-
there's a way of making them on pool because we can charge it minutes.
But we do have other sculptures. The city, we've already started
The police
purchasing.
stations.
Wasn't there a lot of, I'm not pinned.
No,
Don't get me wrong.
I appreciate what you're saying.
I'm just saying fiscally responsible portion of this thing is that we have an obligation to be fiscally responsible for our constituents and who pay taxes in this community.
Right.
This is not a win-win situation.
No, it's
for-
not. I mean, the people that applied,
We're basically going to take something else onto a city property that we will pay insurance on and maintain and not have any.
So we should reject all gifts to the city?
But you're being asked to pay for it.
I'm not suggesting, I haven't said that we think we should.
Point being is, we accepted.
We've bought other sculptures, haven't we?
Founders Park, that all the other,
Craig, what about, okay, we've bought other sculptures, and we likely will buy sculptures in the future.
I don't think we bought them. I think they were donated.
They were all donated? We've not bought any?
No, we just have to insure them
Okay.
and maintain them.
Okay.
But aren't the,
the people's choice.
I mean,
aren't the ladies
great that we...
willing to raise the $5,000?
Yeah.
They're willing to raise the so it's no...
This year it's that tree. I don't know if we'll decide Friday.
If they
Alone,
establish that price
I don't
of
want to.
$5,000, and now we insure that for the rest of our lives.
Well, it's an improvement to the depot.
City for that price, because that's what it established at. He made a point earlier that, did you share that with?
What point?
Well, the Charlie Grid.
Some of these sculptures, they put these price tags on them, and then I know one was supposedly worth $10,000. So then the person didn't want to move it, so all of a sudden it was $1,000, and that included moving it to Florida and setting it up on somebody's property in Naples. So it wasn't really a $10,000 sculpture. Is this really worth $5,000?
Food for thought, guys. Well, that's the insurance, okay, insurance goes to the replacement value, not the artistic value. So that's a different, right? I mean, it's a material issue, not a, what the artist wants to make off of it. It's the replacement, so that is different. So you have to figure out what that actual replacement value is.
Personally, sitting there, if it looks nice, I'd like to see it stay and come up with a way to make that happen. But I would rather us loan the money and then they fundraise it to make it up, be it the rental fees of the depot or their next sock hop or lemon. I mean, they've done a wonderful job fundraising for all of this.
I would rather the foundation say, we will give you the $900 contingent on you raising $1,400 or $1,600. That's what I would rather.
Well, they need more than 16. 16 is what they need by till June.
For this piece. That's what I mean, we're being asked to take all this and try to figure out a way, but I just think that this is really an issue between the foundation and
The
Pensilators. I mean, okay, we didn't get what we want, but would you give us the $900 contingent on us raising $1,600 by said date? Why are we
being felt like we're do this or it's going away?
I guess.
I'm not saying you're making us feel that way.
She's just a messenger, yeah.
So let's do this.
And the message on behalf of the ladies who are working to maintain
A lot of
the
hours.
depot with a lot of hours and a lot of money and a lot of their own time.
Have they discussed this with the foundation?
Yes.
Asked for an extension?
They have not. We just got this letter this week.
So, let's do this. Let's see if we can't get an extension ourselves on an answer, because we still have to look into what even this idea of loaning it or using the depot funds. So we can't answer that question tonight anyway. So if we can get an extension that would also buy them the same amount of time to provide an answer.
How much was in the depot fund, Melissa, would you say?
About $1,200. And I hesitate to touch
Yeah,
that.
because we have to pay other things from it.
Other things happen.
Yeah, and you can't drain that because that doesn't even,
Not enough.
it's not enough.
I checked today because I was curious and didn't know if it was even available to access or would we want to access it. Just an FYI. So, all right, thank you.
This is a council decision, right? Not a board of works.
I guess.
Yep.
And now let's go to Greg.
I have come to ask your permission I don't have enough for everybody, but you can to go to a new portion of uniform in the respect that all it would be the pants. They are called BDU pants. What that actually stands for is it comes from the military battle dress uniform. And all it is a utility type of pant. I've kind of, I don't want to say been against it, but for several years, the guys have asked to be able to wear them. Most of the departments around us have them, and they allow them to wear them. This is what we call a Class A uniform, with the dress pants and the dress shirt. With the Class B, which would be those types of pants, and those are just I just got a couple of them there so that you can see the type of style. They come in all kinds of materials and ripstop and cotton, and I'm thinking we would probably go with a cotton or a heavier if we do that, or if you allow that. I'm for that now. I think we've moved along enough now that as a working uniform, the officers already have, with their bulletproof vests, they have a carrier now that they wear over their uniform. And if you're not real super close, you can't tell it from this shirt. Okay, it actually looks like that. But they can rip it off at any time. So it's nice when they come in out of hot weather, if they come into the office or whatever, they can just take it off and sit down and do their reports or whatever. It's on in 30 seconds or less. And wearing that, if we went to a BDU, I had a meeting with the sergeants today, and I said there had to be some restrictions on this as far as I was concerned. First of all, and the mayor had asked me, well, would they be wearing these all the time? And my response was, very well could be, and probably. But I would make a stipulation on it. First of all, they have to be clean, and they have to be neat and pressed, and they can't look like a bunch of chipmunks with things hanging out of their pockets and that type of thing. But the vest itself goes very well with this. Right now, they're wearing it with this because it fits with the Class A, because it fits looks so good with the Class A that, like I said, you can't hardly tell it from the shirt. The only thing with that is they have some embroidered stuff on it, and it doesn't quite go with the Class A uniform. One of the stipulation that I've already gone over with the sergeants is if we go that way is that they're allowed to wear that during duty hours. However, if at any time during the day they have a commitment to like a talk or the school or a meeting or committee or anything like that, or especially court, they have to wear the Class A uniform. And that's with all the bells and whistles and whatever.
They okay with that?
I'm sorry?
Were they okay with that?
They were, and they agreed with me. So,
Is that more comfortable?
it's more comfortable, it's more durable.
Those are dress pants.
Yeah,
Working.
these are the dress pants, and they take a beating. Any part of the uniform, they actually take the most beating. Whether it's down
Greg came to me and said that the department has been asking for this. The sergeants,
years.
yep, the sergeants have had it on their agenda in their sergeants meeting, and he wanted to know how to respond. And I said, I am fine with it, but I think that before I sign off on it, I just wanted to get the Board of Works opinion and
You said the
maybe
pants only.
for the council in general.
What's the plans at the top?
The top would be, they could wear just what they're doing now, except it'd be more appropriate with these pants than it would be for this, because with the bulletproof vest that they have on now that they wear over that, they have embroidered, like an embroidered badge.
You don't understand, but so they're wearing a BDU top and the vest?
No, it's a combination. It's a vest that the outside of it looks like a shirt.
I know, but what are they wearing for?
Their regular sleeves stick out of it. It's like a sleeveless.
What sleeves are they wearing under it is what he's asking. Is it that shirt?
Yes, this shirt. Well, or most of them have gone now to what they call a cool shirt, so that it has nothing on it other than, and it even has a mesh insert here to stay cool. But again, too, the only time they're allowed to wear that without this is when they're inside doing their work. They can't wear that out in public. But once they have that on underneath here, that cool shirt actually has the
patches.
It just doesn't have everything else on it.
It just seems odd to me that you'd be wearing a Class A top and Class B pants. Why wouldn't you just go get a full-on BDU top and bottom?
Well, no, maybe I'm not being understood. they would still wear their top now. What they're doing now, what we have allowed, what I have allowed, is when we went to their newest vest, they had options of this outside vest that they could take off as needed versus having to strip and take everything off. And it looked close enough to the shirt that you couldn't tell it from anything else. However, with that, I've come to realize now that with the embroidered badge and the buttons and all that kind of stuff, that it's not the best as a dress uniform. It's okay. It really is okay. But I just think now it's another opportunity for them to be able to have a more heavy-duty pant, like an EMT pant.
I'm completely in favor of that. I'm still not clear, like, if you take off that vest, what are they wearing?
They have what they call a cool shirt. They could have this on. Originally, that's what they had on, was this dress shirt, okay? But because we're required to wear or have in possession a bulletproof vest, they could wear this underneath it. That's what they had originally. Since then, they've come out with what they call a cool shirt.
I understand. You very first thing you said, you came up here and you said that, well, I'm just asking for pants.
Yes,
That's vest is the shirt. He's saying that they don't wear the cool shirt out in public. Like if you're wearing the vest as your shirt.
As your shirt.
So you're not going out and not wearing that vest. The cool shirt would never be exposed.
I'm not asking, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with it. I want to make sure you get everything that you need. Like, okay.
No, seriously. No.
I think you're saying...
I want to get on the same plane here.
They're wearing somewhat of a, what's it called, BTU? Is that what you call
BDU.
it? BDU. Top, currently, with dress pants.
They don't call it that, but it works.
But it's
So
similar.
they already have the B version of
Of the vest.
Yes.
Now, if they would wear the
Now we're getting
Class
pants, B
A,
version.
the Class A shirt, like to the court or a meeting or whatever, they do not wear that BDU vest. They would wear it under the Class A's instead of on top. So
I'm fully in favor.
Either one.
I'm fully in favor of having a working uniform. I think it's time. I guess I would only. Do they want cotton or do they want ripstop?
Well, we haven't discussed that yet.
Let that be a
and quite
department
honestly,
decision.
I didn't want to just go with something right now.
May I suggest that be a decision that, as a group, they can make that together? I think that would be
That is fine.
Rather than being
My first
dictated to them.
indication is a heavier weight cotton versus a ripstop. Because I still want to look nice, they still have to take care of it, they still have to press them, do all that there needs to be. It's just that once they become faded, worn out, it's easier to get rid of them.
My only request is that you have it in kind of a departmental standard or writing of when the uniforms are appropriate, so there's no question about when a Class A must be worn.
I agree, and that's just why I brought up the same thing. You know, when they're in public meetings, or if they are to represent the department, or in court, or anything like that. So like if they come to work and say they have a half-hour court, gee, I'm sorry, then you'll have to come with your Class A's on for the day.
Yeah.
Or change at the department, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, they got lockers there, so.
Yeah, and I discussed that with the sergeants, and they're okay with that.
Yeah. We're good with that, guys? By consensus?
Yep.
Go for it, Greg.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a couple minutes, and I think our attorney over here has a couple matters.
Just one for the Board of Works. This addresses the issue of Kurt hiring in as a superintendent in the Building, Planning and Zoning Department while Roger is still there as well, and also his pay retroactive to his date of hire. So what I would suggest, and I talked to Phyllis about this, is that we amend our salary ordinance to simply reference in the plural planning, building, and zoning superintendent. So it would allow for more than one. You have really multiple divisions in that department if you think of planning, building, and zoning. So we would have two in that department, and then you could make the pay retroactive to Kurt's start date That would allow then him to be paid on Friday with the salary that Ken represented he would be paid once he started.
Bottom line is we hadn't hired a department head off the street in quite some time. And we wanted to hire Kurt or someone, so that they could shadow Roger during this last 5-6 weeks of Roger's time here. And it never occurred to me that I couldn't pay 2 people a department head salary for one job. So after I had hired him, then it was brought to my attention. So this is our way around it by amending our salary ordinance.
So if the Board of Works is so inclined, what I would do is have a motion, a second, to approve the amendment subject to council approval, and also approve the pay retroactive to date of hire.
And all that's going to happen at the council meeting in a few
Right.
minutes.
Correct.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Anything else?
Not for Board of Works.
Anything else from Board of Works members? Phyllis, do you have anything for the Board of Works?
Yeah, the tax bills for the sewer project back here, we had to pay for this year only. Tim checked with Patty Zelmer, Vice Miller, and she said we could pay that out in sewer bond for $5,780. Next year they'll be tax exempt.
Right.
Yeah.
But for the other ones that we're doing as riverfront development,
Mark's Heating.
Mark's Heating, Affolders, Oak Sheath,
Biggs Property, Cree, whatever it was. Yeah.
it comes to $4,928. So, are you okay with me taking those out of the council budget, or they'll be exempt next year? It's just for this year.
Yeah, what they did is it was prorated to closing. It was deducted from the sale proceeds, and then it was carried over as a credit to the city, so the city didn't pay as much at closing. So now the bill's due, so the city needs to pay that.
You good with it, guys?
Yeah. I'll make that motion, yeah.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same. Anything else, Phyllis?
Thank you.
Nothing else. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. We are adjourned.